Friday the 13th Part 8 wasn't just another slasher sequel. It was a brutal city nightmare, a hockey mask colliding with flashing neon, subway steam, and midnight sirens echoing through empty streets. But behind all the city chaos, the production was falling apart. Budget cuts forced fake New York sets. Fans felt tricked by the title, and the studio had no idea what to do with Jason anymore. These are 15 creepiest facts about Friday the 13th Part 8. Jason Takes Manhattan. And hidden inside it, that shocking toxic waste ending was never meant to be real at all. Number 1. The ending everyone got wrong. At the end of Jason Takes Manhattan, Jason chases Rennie and Sean into the New York sewers. Just when it looks like he's about to catch them, a wave of toxic waste suddenly floods the tunnels. The acid burns through Jason's body until he collapses and disappears. And when the smoke clears, there's a child lying where Jason stood. Fans in the theater were stunned. Did Jason just turn back into a little boy? The truth is, no. The director later said it was never meant to be real. That scene was supposed to show Rennie's trauma breaking, like she's finally letting go of her childhood fear of Jason. The studio left it in for the shock value, but the ending was always meant as a vision, not reality. Number 2. The director's wild way to calm a nervous actress. During filming, actress Charlene Martin had to shoot a shower scene, and she was terrified. The director, Rob Hedden, wanted to make her feel comfortable, but his solution was unusual. To prove there was nothing to be embarrassed about, he stripped down himself and stepped into the shower area to show it was all safe. Cameras were still rolling, so the next morning the crew saw that surprise when reviewing the footage. The moment became a legendary behind-the-scenes story. It sounds insane, but it worked. The actress relaxed, and the scene went smoothly. In a movie filled with horror, that might have been the scariest thing anyone saw on set. Number 3. The boombox scene almost took Jason down. In one of the movie's most famous moments, Jason storms through Times Square and kicks over a group's boombox like a total boss. But what you don't see is that the first take went completely wrong. When Kane Hodder swung his foot, it got stuck in the handle and he almost fell flat on the street. The crew froze because there were real New Yorkers watching nearby, and for a moment it looked like Jason Voorhees was about to faceplant right in front of them. Everyone held their breath, then burst out laughing once he caught his balance. They reshot the scene, and that near fall became one of the funniest behind-the-scenes stories from the entire movie. Even Jason isn't safe from gravity. Number 4. Jason refused to hurt the dog. Believe it or not, Jason almost crossed a line even horror fans wouldn't forgive. The original script included a moment where he kicks Rennie's dog, Toby, off the ship. When Kane Hodder read it, he immediately told the director Jason doesn't do that. He argued that Jason might be a monster, but he doesn't go after animals. His rage is only for humans who get in his way. The director agreed, the scene was scrapped, and Toby the dog survives. It's one of those behind-the-scenes changes that sounds small but completely changes how fans see the character. Even inside all that rage and blood, Jason has a strange code. He's a killer, but apparently not to man's best friend. Number 5. Jason hid behind a fake name and secret title. When the movie was being filmed, the crew didn't call it Jason Takes Manhattan at all. The secret working title was Ashes to Ashes, and Jason himself was listed in paperwork under the fake name Ethan. The producers did it to keep fans, press, and curious tourists from crowding the set because the franchise was so big at the time, people would literally show up looking for Jason. Using code names kept everything quiet and avoided leaks. But it also led to hilarious confusion when delivery drivers and extras had no idea what movie they were actually on. So yes, for a few weird months in the late 80s, Jason Voorhees was secretly just a guy named Ethan with a travel problem. Number 6. The final girl who said no to typical slasher rules. Horror movies in the 80s were famous for pushing boundaries, especially with how much skin their leads showed. But Jensen Daggett, who played Rennie, wasn't interested in following that pattern. When the director suggested a revealing scene, she refused. She wanted her character to be strong, cautious, and believable, not another cliché victim. The team agreed, and her version of Rennie became one of the most modest final girls in horror history. Ironically, that decision made her stand out even more. Instead of shock value, she brought emotion and realism to a franchise known for chaos. In a series built on blood and screams, Rennie survived by being smart, not by showing off. Number 7. The banned alternate ending was too disgusting. Originally, the young Jason that shows up at the end of the movie wasn't supposed to look normal at all. He was meant to be way more disturbing, his body covered in leeches, his skin melting from toxic waste, and his face full of nasty wounds. The effects team already built the full makeup and prosthetics for this version, but the studio banned it. They thought it was too graphic, too gross, and might push the movie into an X rating, so they cut the entire thing. What we got instead was a much cleaner version. No gore, no rotting flesh, just a confused, wet-looking kid. Most people watching had no idea they were missing one of the most disturbing versions of Jason ever filmed. Number 8. Jason Takes Vancouver would have been the honest title. Even though the poster screamed Jason Takes Manhattan, most of the movie wasn't filmed in New York at all. Nearly every scene was shot in Vancouver, Canada. The real New York scenes, like Times Square, were only filmed for a couple of days because shooting in the city was insanely expensive. Every extra, every permit, every light cost a fortune. So the production quietly recreated New York on Canadian streets that kind of looked right if you squinted. When fans later realized it, they were furious. But honestly, it adds a weird charm. Jason wandering fake New York somehow makes the whole thing even more surreal. Number 9. The original plan was absolutely insane. Before budget cuts ruined everything, the director wanted Jason to actually take Manhattan for real. The script originally had him boxing in Madison Square Garden, chasing victims across the Brooklyn Bridge, and even climbing the Statue of Liberty for the final showdown. It was meant to be a wild New York rampage, but every one of those ideas got killed by costs. Permits, locations, and effects were too expensive, so they chopped it all down to one short Times Square shoot. Number 10. 2 Jasons in one movie. Here's something wild. Jason Takes Manhattan actually has 2 different Jasons. Kane Hodder was the main actor in The Mask, but one of the stunt performers, Ken Kersinger, played a brief role as a diner cook who gets thrown across the room by Jason. Years later, that same Ken Kersinger would officially play Jason himself in Freddy vs. Jason. So, in a weird twist of fate, this movie has both the current and future Jason on screen at the same time. It's one of those hidden Easter eggs horror fans love spotting years later. Number 11. The I Love New York poster that got banned. Paramount originally had a genius idea for the movie's poster. Jason slashing right through the famous I Love New York logo. It looked perfect. Bold, funny, and pure 80s attitude. But the New York Tourism Board wasn't laughing. They complained that it made the city look violent, and the studio was forced to pull the design before the movie even came out. Only a few of those posters made it out, and now they're collector's items worth hundreds of dollars. Number 12. The movie that ended Paramount's Jason era. Jason Takes Manhattan came out in the summer of 1989 and earned just over $14 million in the United States, the lowest box office of the entire series at that point. Fans were disappointed, critics tore it apart, and Paramount finally gave up the rights to the franchise. They sold Jason to New Line Cinema, setting up his future crossover with Freddy Krueger. So even though this movie was a flop on paper, it changed horror history. Without this failure, Freddy vs. Jason might never have happened. Sometimes the movie that bombs the hardest ends up being the one that opens the next big chapter. Number 13. The casting almost looked totally different. Before Jensen Daggett got the role of Rennie, the studio had some wild ideas. Elizabeth Berkley, who later starred in Saved by the Bell, auditioned for the part. Pamela Anderson's name was also floated around, and Eddie Pfeiffer nearly made the shortlist. In the end, the role went to Daggett, who gave Rennie a quieter, more grounded energy that actually worked better for the story. And hidden in the cast was a future star, Kelly Hu, who made her movie debut here as Eva. She later went on to appear in X-Men 2 and The Scorpion King. So while Jason Takes Manhattan might not have launched box office gold, it accidentally kickstarted one actor's Hollywood career. Number 14, the movie that tricked its own fans. When the trailer dropped, people expected Jason to terrorize New York from start to finish. Billboards showed him standing over the city skyline ready to slash through Times Square. But when the movie hit theaters, audiences realized 2/3 of it takes place on a boat. New York only shows up near the very end. Fans felt cheated, like they bought a city nightmare and got a cruise instead. Some even booed at early screenings, but years later that fake-out became part of the movie's legend. It's a slasher that promised skyscrapers but delivered a sea voyage. The twist: that disappointment is exactly what made people keep talking about it, even decades later. Number 15, from worst entry to cult favorite. When it first released, fans called Jason Takes Manhattan the worst Friday the 13th ever made. But over the years, something funny happened. People started loving it for all the reasons it was mocked. The fake New York sets, the rooftop fight, the neon vibe. It all became part of its charm. Now it's a true cult classic. The kind of so bad it's fun horror movie fans rewatch every year. It's weird, messy, and unforgettable. The slasher sequel that refused to play by any rules. In a franchise packed with killers, campers, and chaos, Jason Takes Manhattan somehow stands out by being the most unpredictable of them all. Jason Takes Manhattan was never the slick, citywide bloodbath it promised to be. But that's exactly why it's still remembered. A fake New York, two Jasons, a banned poster, and an ending that makes no sense. It's everything that can go wrong in filmmaking, and yet that chaos gave it personality. For fans, it's the sequel that turned disaster into legend. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed diving into the madness behind Jason's city trip, don't forget to like, drop a comment with your favorite moment, and subscribe for more of the creepiest facts.